Hello, and welcome to the Quest for Games. I'm Jerry, and in this video, I'm going to do a quick how to play of the 2 to 4 player game Dice Thrones Missions from Roxley Games, and apparently distributed by USopoly or the OP. In this game, you're going to take your Dice Thrones characters that you already have, hopefully, and you'll use those to run missions. And then after you're done with beating the henchmen in the missions, you're going to go we hope. You're going to take on the final boss. I'm going to do, like I said, a pretty quick little teach of the game because it's not that difficult to learn. And then I'll come back and do some final thoughts. So this is going to be more of a blend of a review and a teach. Hello, and welcome to the table. We're going to do the setup and then a quick kind of rules and how to play for Dice Thrones missions. So the first thing we need to do is pick a mission board. Right now I have the mission board that concludes with the fight of Doc Ock. So this side of it, they refer to it as the mission run. It's the one that they suggest you play first. It's a level 1, which you can see right here on the corner here that it's a level 1. I will put this mission board in real quick so that you can see it sort of zoomed in a little bit. You can see that that's a level 1 right there. It's telling you it's a level 1. In normal Dice Thrones fashion, you can see the different dice. It'll tell you what the difficulty level is of each one. And then here is a thing that's telling you that its duration is 30 to 45 minutes. The Doc Ock one is the same, 30 to 45 minutes. When I've seen some of the level 5 ones, they say 45 to 70 minutes. So the gameplay length will vary based on the difficulty of the game. What we're trying to do here is we have this mission run side of the board where we're trying to fight the henchmen. And eventually when we get done with this mission run board, we will go over and put it on the boss fight board, and we will be fighting, in this case, Doc Ock. So that's the basic premise of what we're trying to do. There are a couple of concepts that are kind of new that were introduced in Mission. There's a few other ones during the rules that I'll talk about, but one of the concepts is ranged. A ranged attack is something that doesn't happen in normal Dice Thrones. I don't think it even happened in Dice Thrones Adventures. When you're playing 2 players or a player versus player, you're basically always in range of each other. In this particular game, you have to be 1 square away and you're going to do melee attack. And that's the same as in Adventure. But there is also a concept of a ranged attack. And a ranged attack means you can hit anywhere on the board. This laser has a ranged attack and it can hit you anywhere on the board. Some allies, which we'll get to in a minute, will give you the ability to do a ranged attack. That's the only way I know of that a character can do a ranged attack or a hero can do a ranged attack. The other thing that's a little different, and I'll get to it in the rules play a bit, is you do simultaneous play. So both characters or all 4 characters would do their normal Dice Throne turn. So upkeep, income, main phase, do your offensive roll phase until you're ready to target. And then in the targeting phase is when everybody comes back together and says, this is what I'm going to do. This is the target I'm taking. This is how much damage I'm doing. And that's the first thing that goes in turn order, is that target. And then the defensive roll phase goes in that turn order. And then you go back to simultaneous play where both players or all 4 players are doing their second main phase and their discard all at the same time. So for a quick reminder, there's the normal turn order. Back into setup, sorry. You do the normal setup for your Dice Throne character. Then to continue the setup of your character, you set your health dial at 45 for a 2-player game. You set your CP at 2 for a 2-player game. You draw a hand of 4 cards. That's the same no matter if you're 2-player or not. And you set your standees out here on the entry square. If you don't have standees from your Dice Thrones characters, the game comes with 4 basic standees. but all of my Dice Throne characters came with standees, so I'm using those. There's a player aid for Dice Throne's missions, and then there's this momentum card, which is a new kind of thing that happens from Dice Throne's missions. So you get a level 1 in this particular case, because my first game, I'm getting a level 1 momentum card, and then everybody gets this card that talks about the turn order. I guess I'll keep both of those up here. There is a new thing called a perk sheet. In this perk sheet, you'll fill it out after each successfully completed mission. Right here in the top corner, momentum, it gives you a free upgrade to say you're on momentum 1. To get the next level of a momentum, you have to have gotten 3 dots in each one of the different difficulty levels. And there's other things you can get from this perk sheet: additional health, some additional starting momentum points, and things like that. The perk sheets are, you fill it out and put your name on here on the perk sheet, and this perk sheet stays with you no matter what you're doing. It doesn't go with the character. So if I'm playing Deadpool this time, and then the next time I'm playing Storm, this perk sheet stays with me. It doesn't stay with the actual character that I played. That perk sheet is how you level up your characters, and that's what kind of makes this almost a roguelike, if you're familiar with that term. So each character then gets a momentum dial to help them track their momentum, which is what they spend. That's a new kind of resource. So it's set to 0 at first. Next, we shuffle these ally cards, and we turn over the first 3 on the top of the deck. So let me put one of these ally cards in here on top of those. You'll see that this ally card is Emma Frost, and she costs 2 momentum to buy when you can buy her. Her ability is going to be, and I'll talk more about this during the rules, but her ability is when you get 4 of the same, you'll be able to do her ability, and she's one of them that gives you range, which I was talking about a minute ago. So we have 3 allies out. Then we place this crisis clock, which the crisis clock is really nice. It's magnetic. Don't know how well you can see that, but you can place the one part of the crisis clock underneath and the hand on top of the magnet, and it stays in place really nicely because of that magnet. I have to roll 1 dice. I got a 3, so I have to move the crisis clock 1, 2, 3, and that's where we start off. There is a note that you'll see that the crisis clock has 2 sides. There's a +1 side and there's a standard side. Don't use the +1 side in the beginning. The next thing we do during setup is we look at our henchmen, and the crab bots here have 12 health. The thief bots have 11 health. So you're supposed to go through and pull out health tokens to match how much health each character had. So I put 12 on the crabs, and I'll put 11 on the thief bots. I have to create a dice pool for the henchmen. So you always take the 2 red dice and 1 black dice for any level. And then you add, well, unless there's special instructions, but the ones that I've played, it's always 2 red dice, 1 black. And then you get 1 black dice for each player. So I wind up with 2 red and 3 black because I'm playing a 2-player game on this board. The next thing I do is take these boost tokens that I have here, and we're supposed to keep a collection of them near the board. But I've shuffled them, and I put 1 out on each spot on the board that shows the boost symbol. I flip those over so that we can see what rewards we get for each one of these. So I've set one of the boost tokens out, and then I flipped them all over so that we can see what kind of rewards we get from the boost tokens. I'll go over the boost tokens when I go over the rules in just a minute. You look at your mission board and see if there's any more setup instructions on your mission board. This particular mission board, there aren't any additional setup instructions. So I don't have any more setup here. So that's it. I'm done with setup and I'm ready to play. So let's talk about gameplay and the rules. The first thing we had to do, because it's our first round, is we have to roll a dice. I rolled a dice and Deadpool got a 6 and Wolverine got a 3. So Deadpool gets this first player token and they are the first player. If you look at the turn phase there, it'll say that past the first player token, well, in the very first round, no one has the first player token, so you roll a dice to figure out who gets it. The next thing you're supposed to do is you're supposed to move. So that's one of the reasons why the first player token is important, because Deadpool gets to go first because he's got the first player token. And Deadpool decides that he wants to go to this space and pick up this chip. You'll see on the bottom of the chips, they have different values. This one's 1 CP. So Wolverine picked up that chip and gets 1 CP, 1 combat point. Wolverine decides he's going to move to this space, and he picked up this chip, which is a +3. So he gets a +3 token added on to him. So he's going to get to do +3 damage during his turn. While I'm talking about some of these, here's some other chips really quick. This one gives you 1 momentum for landing on it. This one gives you cards. In this case, it's 2 cards for landing on it. I might be putting this back in the wrong way. Some of them have things like this one says remove a status effect token and you'll gain a momentum for that. So the chips are pretty self-explanatory, but there's a nice section in the back of the book that tells you what each one of these chips do. So our 2 characters are in their spots. Then the next thing that they would do is they would do their hero part. So we're now on to hero part 1. For the first turn, you don't get an upkeep or an income phase. So we're going to do the first main phase. Wolverine's going to spend his 2 combat points because he happens to have this severe threat 2. He's going to put severe threat 2 down. Deadpool decides not to do anything on his first main phase because he really doesn't have a card to play. We're continuing down simultaneously. We're continuing down each player's turn. I rolled for Wolverine and I rolled his Hunter. And for Deadpool, I rolled his finger guns. So we're now down to the targeting phase. In the targeting phase, we do go back into turn order. So Deadpool will go first. He will say, I am targeting this crab bot with my damage. I do 6 defendable damage. And if he does his little pew pew thing, he gets 1 combat point added on to his combat points. And since I just did it, he gets 1 combat point added on. Yeah, Deadpool's fun to play. He does 7 damage to this bot because that's the one that he was attacking. So I put that one down to 9. That character, this henchman now has 9. You can boost dice rolls or boost attacks just like you would in a normal game. Right now, there's nothing in Deadpool's hand that I would do. So then it's Wolverine's turn. Wolverine, I did 7 damage and I didn't do enough. Crabbot's got 5 health left. Wolverine rolled Hunter. He's deciding he's going to attack this Crabbot. He gets to draw a card because of his Hunter ability. He does 6 defendable damage to the Crabbot. And then he re-rolls 4 of these dice. And for every mask he gets, which he rolled 1, he gets to gain 1 rage. So he gained a rage. He actually was able to do 3 more points of damage. So he's doing 9 damage. So this Crabbot has 3 left. This Crabbot has 5 left. They don't have any defensive rolls as henchmen, at least on this one. They don't have any defensive rolls. So now we continue on to the second main phase. Neither character is going to do anything in the second main phase. And then we can go to discard phase. Neither character is going to do anything in the discard phase. So now it's the henchman's turn. Then the henchmen would have to check to see if they have any status effects on them. The henchmen do not have any status effects on them. Now roll once for the henchman. And I rolled 2 vortexes 2 strikes and 1 Hedron, I think is what they call that one. So when I take these dice and try to match them up to what the henchman can do on the bottom of the board, to get this crab bot to do anything, he needs to get 3 strikes. I didn't roll 3 strikes. So the henchman doesn't successfully attack right now. I did get 2 strikes and the vortex, which is what the thief bot needs to attack. So the thief bots are going to attack. Well, they have multi-strike, but they're only melee, and there's no hero in range of any of the thief bots. So they don't get to reattack, whatever the 6 is. You can see that Hedron or whatever they call that on this laser henchman. So the laser fires. The laser is range, it's multi-strike. So that means it strikes both of the 2 characters and it does 2 undefendable damage to both characters. So both characters have to take 2 damage and it's undefendable. So just like, regular dice throne rules, that means they don't get to roll their defense. So neither character gets to roll any defense against that. They just took the damage. Let's go through and rework this a little bit so that we can talk about the rules of how some other things work. Let's just say I rolled 3 strikes here for the crab bot. So now the crab bot's got his strike and he can do his attack. So both crab bots, actually all crab bots on the map, activate. This crab bot back here is not in range of anybody, so he's not going to do anything. But these 2 crab bots do activate. They're going to go for Deadpool first because Deadpool's the first player. Both of these 2 crab bots can attack him, but we're going to do this crab. We're going to resolve this crab bot first. The crab bot is melee, it's multi-strike, and it does 4 damage, defendable damage, to the heroes. Well, this crab bot can't reach Wolverine, but he can reach Deadpool, so the multi-strike doesn't really mean anything. But Deadpool's got to take 4 defendable damage. So Deadpool would roll his 4 dice for defense. He would heal 1 because of his heal. He would do 2 damage, undefendable damage back. He would get one of his onomatopoeias. But he's doing 2 defendable damage back, or undefendable damage back to the crab. So the crab's now at 3, but he healed 1, but he didn't block any of it. So he would go down the 4 damage and heal back up 1, so he's going down 3 damage. So he's now at 40. Now this crab bot will go off, and this crab bot will attack Deadpool first because he's first player. It's multi-strike, so it hits both of these 2 characters. So he will do, again, 4 defendable damage to Deadpool. Deadpool rolls his dice. This time he got 3 of his hits. Oh, I read that wrong. He only gets to do 1 damage. So he does 1 damage back to this one. But he still has to take 3 damage, 4 damage minus the 1 heal that he gets. So he's taking another 4 damage, or 3 damage, sorry. So he's now down to 37. Then Wolverine does his. He's got 3 dice that he rolls. Based on his roll, he deals 2 undefendable damage back to this bot. So all of a sudden, this bot's dead. And we'll put a token on there to show that this bot is dead. And Wolverine gets 2 momentum, which is good because we can use that. But he still has to take, let's see what he rolled. And he got a mask, so he gets another rage. He didn't defend any of the damage, so he's got to take 4 damage from this bot, that crab bot. And so that's the way the combat would resolve itself. When I did the movement, I didn't talk about these gray squares block your movement. You can move anywhere you want to, but the gray squares block your movement. Right now with this on here, that's no longer considered a gray square. So in the next movement phase, Wolverine could move all the way over here somewhere if he wanted to, because you can move over top of that. So we've taken the bot's turn, and I manipulated some things to make it so the bots actually did stuff, but we've taken the bot's turns. Next thing we have to do is move the crisis clock. I move the crisis clock 2 turns, and you see that it's on this thief bot symbol. So that would mean that the thief bot's crisis ability activates, which you look on the board and you see their crisis ability says that each thief bot on the map gets a shield. So this thief bot would get a shield, this thief bot would get a shield, and this thief bot would get a shield because there's 3 of them. So because of that crisis ability, I put 3 shields, or I put a shield on each one of the thief bots. The next thing is we cycle back up to the top and we take the hero's turns again. So the first player token is now passed over to Wolverine. Wolverine's now first player. We do the movement, and the characters can move however they want to move. Let's just say Wolverine decides that Deadpool can finish off the last 3 on that person. They can move through this spot, which they couldn't move through before, remember, because it's gray. They can now move through this spot. They could stop here on the 1 CP if they wanted to take the 1 CP, or they could move down here, which let's just say that's what they're going to do, and take the draw 2 cards chip. So they are drawing 2 cards. And Deadpool decides he's going to move also. He's going to move to here so that he can get another chip. And he gets the draw 1 card chip. And I'm sorry, this board being made out of cardstock makes things a little difficult, as you can see. So then we would go into each character's upkeep because we're in a second turn. We do their income, we do their main phase, we do their dice rolling, and so on and so forth, right? But that's good enough for right now. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. We moved along. This is the last character. We've done our dice rolls and we're doing our targeting. Wolverine was first player. He finished off this character. Deadpool's now going to finish off this character. This thief bot is now finished off. So now everybody on the board is finished off, and the thief bot's the last one to die was this thief bot. So there's these main objectives over here. In the main objectives, they're saying there's a goal. You have to kill all 3 of the thief bots that are out there. If you do, you automatically get to move to the exit. The main objective for this mission is to get to the exit and move out of the exit. If you are successful at that, you get 3 health and 3 momentum that you can add to your character. And then you can do a perfect reward, and the perfect reward is you get 3 health and 3 momentum to split amongst the characters. So each one of those were completed because we were perfect. We made it to the exit, so we met the objective. We did it perfectly. Each character basically is going to get 6 health and 3 momentum. And then we flip the board over to the boss side. So now here we are on the boss side. Set up on the boss side is we're supposed to put out these boost chips face up on every one of the spaces. And then it would flip to being Deadpool's first, so he gets to do his movement first. Deadpool's going to decide he wants more health, so he's going to take the health token. Wolverine's going to decide he wants more momentum. Oh, well, he wants to separate himself too a little bit. So he's going to take the 2 momentum chip. He's now at 8 momentum. I'm going to really quickly pause for a second to talk about this because we haven't really talked about it before. We can see on the momentum thing that he can recruit any hero. So he's going to go recruit Wasp, which is going to cost him 2 momentum to recruit Wasp. I would have normally done this in the first one, but we're here. So we're going to recruit Wasp. I'm going to talk about the anatomy of these cards real quick. This is the cost, the momentum up here in the corner. She costs 2 momentum. Her ability is once per roll during your roll phase. She's got an offensive kicker that she adds 1 damage to any of your damage, 1 blockable damage or defendable damage. But remember, in the rules, certain things become undefendable based on what kind of attack you're using. Like if you get your ultimate off, it's all undefendable. You can exhaust her to gain 1 shield. And exhausting her means you're going to give her back, put her back on the bottom of the deck, and get rid of her. Right now, Wolverine's going to keep her, but that's what exhausting her would mean. I'm supposed to flip the new one out here. So let's talk about Archangel here. So Archangel also costs 2. He's got this, the way he gets his power off is a little different. You have to get 2 of one symbol and 3 of another symbol, basically a full house. And if you do that, then his ability goes off. You automatically become ranged, so you can attack anywhere on the board. You gain flight, you deal 6 defendable damage, and then exhaust plus. So if you've done this, what the exhaust plus means is I had to have activated the top. And when I've activated the top, I can do the exhaust plus and activate the bottom. I'm still exhausting them, so they're going on the bottom of the ally deck. But I would gain an additional flight and I would be able to inflict poison. But trying to explain, that's what the exhaust plus means. So there's an exhaust and exhaust plus. We talked about those. And then you'll see that most of them have these, like Emma Frost here is saying that she wants you to have 5 of the same symbol. It doesn't have to be a 5 Deadpool masks or Wolverine masks that they need for their ultimate. 5 finger guns for Deadpool would get hers to go off. But that's kind of the way they work. Some of them, like Wasp, it just goes off all the time. Some of them have you can spend a certain amount of momentum to get them to do things. There's one in here that heals, that you can spend a certain amount of momentum to automatically heal. Lich, you can spend a certain amount of momentum and he will give you a shield. That's the allies and what the allies do. So for the boss fight, it tells me right here during the boss fight, my setup is he's got 30 health, so I have to give him 30 health. Plus he gets 15 health per hero that's going to attack him. I have 2, so that's 30 more health. So he starts out with 60 health. So I set my boss health dial to 60. Our objective is to get his health dial down to 0. The boss fights work a lot like the henchman fights, but there's some nuances to it that we've got to go over. So you do each character gets to do their upkeep simultaneously. You do your upkeep, your income, your first main phase, then you do your offensive roll phase. That offensive roll phase goes against the boss. In this case, the boss now has, if it's defendable, the boss has something that they'll do. For Doc Ock, he just automatically does 1 damage back to you, undefendable damage back to you for the damage you do to him. But that all works basically the same way. Still do your targeting, whichever player's first does their targeting first, so on and so forth. You get your second main phase, you do your discard phase, then it becomes Doc Ock's turn. On Doc Ock's turn, I take the same dice that I had before, and I roll them, but I still only roll them once. And I try to match these dice up to match these attacks in order. So I rolled 3 slashes and 2 vortexes. For the first thing, his crushing grip, he wants a slash, a vortex, and a hedron. I don't have that. Then he wants his next one, his laser strike. He wants 2 slashes and a vortex. So that's what I have. So that's what I will use for his attack back. It is a multi-strike melee. They're both in melee range. So both characters take 9 defendable damage. So both characters would roll their defense dice and do whatever their defense does. And then they would take whatever's left of the 9 damage, all the 9 damage, whatever, do damage back to the boss. Same stuff that they would normally do. I rolled these 2 red dice. When I rolled the 2 red dice, I've got a 2 and a 5. So I have to take one of these and put 1 face down boost token on the 2 and 1 face down boost token on the 5. And that would be this end of this round of the boss fight. I then have to go move the crisis clock for the boss, which I move it 2 spaces, 1, 2, it tells me that I have to do a gear up. So roll 1 dice per hero. So I'm rolling 2 dice. Gain a shield for each slash that I just rolled. I rolled 1 slash and 1 vortex. So Doc Ock would gain a shield. And that's the end of the first turn of Doc Ock. Let's talk about these face down things now. Let's just say both of the 2 characters decided they were going to move to the spaces that have the face down boost tokens. They both get the 1 combat point right away because those were face up. These 2 face down boost tokens have to go onto their health cards to help them remember. They do their normal dice turn. They hit Doc Ock for whatever they hit Doc Ock for. They do all their normal turn, right? And now it comes back around to Doc Ock's turn. And I roll the dice for Doc Ock. I got all slashes this time. His crushing grip doesn't go off. His laser strike doesn't go off. But his rapid slash goes off. So each one takes 4 undefendable damage. But they have these boost tokens on there, which means I have to look at this crit down here because he's going to crit them both. And he inflicts 2 bleed on each one of the characters. So each character also gets 2 bleed on them from that crit. And now, once they get through all that, they get to flip these over and get to do whatever it is that's on there. So Deadpool gets 4 health back, and Wolverine would get to remove 1 status effect and gain, lucky for him, 1 status effect and gain a momentum. So he got to remove that, and he gets to give himself 1 more momentum. So that's what you do back and forth until you get the health of the boss's health to 0 or your hero's health is at 0. If the boss's health gets to 0, you've successfully completed it, and you can go back to your perk sheet and you'll get a certain number of perks depending upon if you were perfect with your completion or just completed it. You fill in those dots on your perk sheet, and the next time you play, you get those upgraded perks. Another thing to kind of mention is these things can stack. Let's just say Deadpool decided not to move. And the next time I rolled, this is what I rolled, and I would get a 2. So I would put another boost token underneath 2, and I would put a boost token underneath 4. But let's just say I rolled a 1. I'd put a boost token underneath Deadpool. That doesn't automatically go to his card. You wouldn't get that unless he moved off and then back onto it for whatever reason. But that concludes the boss fight. Like I said, you go back and forth until you either get the boss's health to 0 or your hero's health is at 0. And with that, let's go to final thoughts. Hello. So final thoughts on Dice Thrones missions. I've played it with 2 players. I haven't played it with a 4-player game yet. So again, take all that with, the grain of salt or whatever. I did buy this. I kickstarted it. I don't believe any of the stuff that you saw while I was doing the teach are things that were kickstarted upgrades. The opinions that you're hearing are mine and mine alone. They don't reflect anybody else. I'm not getting paid to do this. I don't have a sponsor for these videos yet, unless maybe that's you. So I don't get these games for free, again, unless it's maybe you. No, these are my opinions and my opinions alone. The game, I do like the game. I actually think I like it a little bit better than Adventures because it doesn't take the same time commitment, although I'm normally a dungeon crawl kind of guy, and I do like the dungeon crawl natures of Adventures. Playing these gives me another thing to do with my Dice Throne characters, which I really like playing the Dice Thrones characters. This looks like it's going to be the same. Things will get more complicated as we get to the harder villains and the harder missions. So build quality, just like a normal Roxley game, it's good build quality. I'm not a huge fan of the cardstock mission boards, and they do kind of wrinkle up, so I wind up putting weights on them. But the rest of it's pretty typical Roxley construction. The cardboard chits are good, thick cardboard pieces, cardboard chits. The boost tiles, those mystery tiles, and the defeated tiles are all nice plastic tiles. I guess they're acrylic, but to me, they feel like they're plastic. The Crisis Clock has a magnet in it, which when I did the unboxing, I didn't realize that. I said it was already assembled, but the magnetic base and top of that Crisis Clock, it snaps together. So it's affixed to the mission board or the battle board, which is really nice. The trays that come with the game that you can get all the tokens and stuff into, Adventures had that. That's really nice. So this year I've changed my rating and I'm just doing a typical 1 to 10, 10 being the best and 1 being not so great. I'm going to put this at an 8, which means I recommend it. It's a really good game, especially if you have Dice Thrones characters. Part of the reason that I'm saying an 8 out of 10 instead of going up higher than that is that I have to have Dice Thrones characters to play this. And my assumption is that this is going to be out at retail for a regular price of a board game. There are no characters in the box that I can immediately play it with. It's more of an expansion than it is a standalone game. But I assume it's going to be priced as a standalone game. So that's where the hesitation is. If I'm already into the Dice Thrones universe and I already have Dice Thrones characters, this is a good additional way to play and use my Dice Throne characters in a cooperative way. If I'm not already into the Dice Thrones universe, then it may be a little bit harder to sell. So while I'm talking about that, let's talk about the pros and the cons and then what you might and might not like this game for. Missions are well laid out, at least the ones that I've played. They seem to be pretty well laid out. The perk sheet so that I get perks to make the next mission a little bit easier for me and make it almost a roguelike kind of a game. I find that very intriguing, very nice, gives me incentives. I can use all my Dice Thrones characters with this, another, on the pros, right? The cons, the main con I would say is that battle board, the card stack battle board, which I've talked about a few times. There's some things in here that I guess it's kind of a quirk to me, or it's maybe a sticking point of mine, and it's not that big a deal to people, but to me it is a kind of a con. Certain characters have things that manipulate their opponent's dice rolls, or make it so that they have to pay. I'll give an example of Trent. Trent has these brambles, and when his brambles are on the opponent, if they elect to roll their dice a second time, do the re-roll, they have to pay for that. And if they try to roll it a third time, they have to pay for that too. In this case, for this game, you get a momentum for that. It's not as damaging to the opponent that, oh, I get a momentum for that I can spend to get another character, or I can spend on the ally that I have and make my ally do something. It's not, in my opinion, it doesn't feel as powerful as some of the things that these characters can do to impact another character. So to me, that's kind of a con, but it's a nitpicky kind of con because maybe the characters that I play. So is this game for you? If you like battling games where you're trying to whittle your opponent's health down, this is cooperative, so it's probably not for you. This takes those Dice Throne characters that you may already have and makes it so that you can take them, and instead of just using them as whittling my opponent's health down, I can now use them cooperatively in another game, or basically another game. Then maybe this is for you if you like to do that. If you like cooperative games, this is a good cooperative game. If you aren't already into the Dice Thrones universe and you don't have any Dice Thrones characters, then the cost of entry may be a little high for you. But if you're really into the Marvel property, I would highly recommend getting this and some of the Dice Thrones Marvel characters, because this is very thematic. The game is very thematic. So with that, if you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate it if you would like it. If you find my videos helpful and haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you'd do that too. So that's all I have for today. I appreciate you sticking with me this long. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Have fun gaming, and I'll see you next time.